Commander Elias Rourke had seen many strange things in his years in space, but nothing prepared him for the first moment he saw Siri. She was not much taller than a human child, with fur that shimmered like silver silk and eyes that seemed to glow from within. The crew of the Vigilant Dawn stared in quiet awe, unsure whether to treat her as a guest or as a curiosity. Rourke, however, felt only the familiar twinge of responsibility. He had been assigned as her human liaison, which meant he would be responsible for her safety, her comfort, and, most importantly, her understanding of humans. Siri did not hide her disdain for misunderstandings. Her voice, light but firm, carried over the ship's corridors. "I am not your pet," she said the first time a crew member had reached out to offer her a hand. "I am a Teshari. I am an ambassador, not a plaything." Rourke had watched her calmly, nodding with the patience he had learned through years of diplomacy. "Understood," he said, "and I promise we won't treat you that way." Siri studied him carefully, tilting her head as though she could read his intentions. Unlike many of her species, she allowed a small smile to touch her lips, though her eyes remained sharp. "We shall see, human," she replied. Life on the Vigilant Dawn was not easy for Siri. The Teshari had evolved to live in tight-knit psychic communities where isolation was almost unbearable. Humans, however, were loud, chaotic, and emotionally overwhelming. Siri often covered her ears, her glowing eyes narrowing, or retreated to quiet corners, floating slightly above the floor as though gravity itself annoyed her. Rourke spent hours with her, speaking gently about human culture, the habits of his crew, and the strange art of human humor. At first, Siri listened politely, correcting his pronunciation, pointing out human inconsistencies, and occasionally hissing in frustration at the odd behavior of the crew. "Your laughter is too loud. It hurts my mind," she said one evening after a particularly rowdy dinner in the mess hall. "You might just need to get used to it," Rourke said with a grin, handing her a small bowl of noodles, which she delicately examined with her translucent fingers. "Or I could teach you to laugh like a human. It's a skill." Siri's tail flicked. "I do not require your instruction. I require patience." Despite her protests, Rourke noticed small moments when Siri's sharp defenses softened. Once, while walking through the observation deck, she paused to stare at the distant stars. Her eyes reflected the endless black dotted with light. For a moment she was silent, unguarded, and Rourke felt the tension of her mind, a longing for connection, a hunger for companionship that humans took for granted. "Do you miss your home?" he asked quietly, not expecting an answer. Siri's ears twitched, a subtle signal he had come to recognize. "I do," she admitted, her voice almost a whisper. "This ship is strange. I do not belong here." Rourke nodded, understanding more than he could say. He remembered the first times he had left Earth, the feeling of weightlessness and solitude in the vast darkness, the emptiness that no ship or crew could fill. "You will belong," he said. "Not as one of us, but with us. We can learn from each other." Over the next weeks, a quiet companionship grew between them. Rourke would bring small things for Siri. Music played softly through the ship's speakers, the smell of earth plants stored in hydroponic containers, stories of human exploration and heroism. She, in turn, shared glimpses of her telepathic abilities, showing him the colors of thought, the hum of emotion, and the silent song that ran through her people's minds. It was unlike anything Rourke had ever experienced. One day, an alert flashed on the bridge. The ship had entered a strange radiation field that interfered with communication and sensor systems. The crew panicked as instruments went dark, lights flickered, and the hull hummed ominously. Rourke's training kicked in. "Everyone stay calm. Siri, we need your help," he said, glancing at her. Siri's eyes narrowed. "This field disrupts telepathy in humans, but my abilities are adapted to psychic resonance. I can coordinate the ship through mental signals." "No pressure," Rourke said lightly, though the tension in his chest told a different story. Siri floated to the center of the bridge, concentrating with an intensity that made the air around her shimmer. She extended her mind to every human aboard, weaving their thoughts together like threads of light. Slowly, the ship's systems began to respond, instruments blinking back to life as the crew moved as one under her guidance. Rourke watched her with awe. Even as the radiation storm raged around them, she remained steady, a tiny silver figure carrying the minds of dozens of humans at once. But after the storm passed, Siri collapsed exhausted. Her body trembled as her psychic energy drained away. Rourke was at her side immediately, lifting her gently into his arms. "You did it," he said softly. "You saved the ship." Ciri's eyes fluttered open, glowing faintly. "I almost failed," she whispered. "Humans are too unpredictable. I could not control it all." "You don't have to," Rourke replied, sitting down and letting her curl up in his lap. "You only have to be here with us." For a long moment she stayed silent, then spoke in her soft, musical voice. "I am not your pet," she said, almost as if testing herself. "But I am connected to you." Rourke smiled, brushing a hand through her silky fur. "Connected. That's enough for me." The rest of the crew watched in quiet respect, realizing that the bond forming between human and Tashari was something beyond duty or protocol. It was trust, friendship, and something deeper. A recognition that even across galaxies, beings could care for one another without needing to dominate or control. In the weeks that followed, Ciri learned to navigate human life more confidently. She laughed at jokes, participated in training exercises, and even helped mediate small disputes among the crew. She began to enjoy simple pleasures, the warmth of a sun lamp on her fur, the gentle hum of the ship's engines, and the stories Rourke told of humanity's resilience. Yet, there was always a part of her that remained wary. She would remind Rourke, often with a twitch of her ears, that she was an ambassador first, a friend second. And Rourke, understanding her boundaries, never overstepped. He respected her rules while offering companionship, slowly building a bridge of understanding that neither species had anticipated. One quiet evening, as the vigilant dawn drifted through the void, Rourke and Ciri sat together on the observation deck. The stars stretched endlessly before them, sparkling in the black canvas of space. Ciri leaned into him, her body small and delicate, but her presence powerful and reassuring. "You know, human," she said after a long silence. "You are unlike any being I have encountered. You shine too brightly. Your thoughts, they burn with intensity, but I like it." Rourke chuckled softly. "I'll take that as a compliment." "It is," Ciri replied, her silver eyes reflecting starlight. "Perhaps we can learn from one another. Perhaps humans are not as fragile as I once thought." Rourke felt a swell of pride, not for himself, but for humanity as a whole. Despite the chaos, despite the fear, humans had endured, adapted, and even thrived in places where others might falter. And now through Ciri's eyes he saw that same potential reflected in the small silver creature in his lap. The bond between human and alien, fragile as it was, promised more than survival. It promised understanding, cooperation, and a future where two very different species could navigate the stars together. As the night stretched on, Ciri rested her head against Rourke's chest. She did not call him master or friend. She called him presence. And for the first time in her life away from her people, she felt safe. Rourke, feeling the quiet weight of responsibility and trust, held her gently. "You are safe," he whispered, "and you will always be safe with us." And in that moment, surrounded by the infinite void of space, human and Tashari shared a simple truth. Trust could cross the boundaries of worlds, and courage was not measured by power, but by the willingness to care for another being. No matter how different they were, it was a beginning, and both knew that the universe had only just begun to test them. The vigilant dawn approached the Tashari homeworld with a mix of awe and tension. Its surface shimmered like liquid silver under the light of a nearby sun, and the immense cities floated above vast crystal oceans. To humans it was beautiful, alien, and intimidating all at once. To Ciri it was home, but a home she had feared returning to after her bond with Rourke had begun. As the ship descended into the planet's upper atmosphere, the High Council of the Tashari awaited them. The council's members were imposing, tall figures with eyes that seemed to pierce through the mind itself. They had made it clear before the journey began. Ciri must return to them immediately, her bond with Rourke severed. Any violation of their laws would be considered a serious offense. Rourke stood beside Ciri, steady and calm. "We are here to respect your customs," he said, though his heart thudded in his chest. He knew the council's judgment could end more than just a mission. It could destroy the fragile trust that had formed between human and Tashari. Ciri floated slightly above the deck, her silver fur glowing faintly. "I will comply with their orders," she said, her voice steady but cold. "But I am reluctant." When the council appeared before them, the atmosphere seemed to thrum with psychic energy. One of the members, taller and older than the rest, spoke with a voice that resonated in Rourke's mind as well as his ears. "Ciri," the elder said, "you have formed an alien bond. You must return to the Tashari now. It is not permitted for you to remain connected to a human." Ciri's ears twitched, a signal of inner conflict. She hesitated, looking at Rourke. "I cannot deny it completely," she admitted softly. Rourke stepped forward, meeting the elder's gaze without flinching. "I cannot let her suffer," he said.
"I will follow your laws where I can, but I cannot separate her from what keeps her alive."
"Her connection is mutual. It is trust, not dominance. She is not alone, and she will not be forced into isolation." The council murmured, their psychic energy rippling through the room. Ciri's body trembled slightly. The rules of her species were absolute, yet the human before her was defying them. Not for power. Not for control, but for care. "You risk your life by doing this." "Human," the elder said, their eyes narrowing. "The neural bond procedure you propose is dangerous. No human has survived such a merge." Rourke's jaw tightened. "Then I will be the first," he said. "If it is the only way to save her, I will take the risk. Ciri will not suffer for my species' ignorance." Ciri's eyes widened. "No, I cannot if you—" "You are not a pet," Rourke said gently, placing a hand near hers, careful not to touch unless she allowed it. "You are my partner in this. Equal. I only wish to share your burden, not take it from you." The council's silence was thick, and Ciri hesitated. Her tail flicked nervously as she weighed her instinct against this new understanding of humans. Finally, she nodded, slowly, trusting him. The scientist prepared the neural link chamber, a spherical room filled with softly glowing circuits designed to merge minds across species. The process was considered untested and dangerous. But Rourke's determination did not falter. He stepped inside first, signaling for Ciri to follow. The doors closed behind them and a low hum filled the chamber. Rourke sat on the central platform, his eyes focused on Ciri. "We will do this together," he said. Ciri hovered beside him, extending her hands toward the intricate machinery. She focused, weaving her telepathic energy carefully, sensing Rourke's thoughts, emotions, and fears. The first contact was jarring. His human mind was bright, chaotic, and far too noisy. Her telepathy ached under the intensity, but she held firm. And then, slowly, something changed. The chaos of his mind began to take shape under her guidance, like a storm breaking into streams of light. Rourke, in turn, began to feel her thoughts, her fears, her longings, the loneliness that had weighed on her since leaving her people. He realized that her strength lay not in isolation, but in connection. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time lost meaning inside the neural link. They shared memories, sensations, and understanding that transcended language. Rourke felt what it meant to be Tashari, the deep psychic bonds that form the core of their society, and the isolation that threatened Ciri every time she left her kind. Ciri felt something she had never experienced, the raw, unfiltered courage of humans. The determination to protect, the willingness to risk life for others, the chaotic brilliance of hope. She realized that humans were not weak. They were strong in ways her species had never considered. When the bond reached its peak, Rourke spoke aloud, even though she could hear him in every corner of her mind. "I will not let you be alone," he said. "You are safe with me. We are equals. We face this together." For the first time, Ciri let herself believe it. She whispered, her voice trembling in both mind and sound. "I trust you." The neural link began to stabilize. The council members outside the chamber felt ripples of psychic energy, subtle but undeniable. They sensed what had happened inside, trust, connection, and empathy bridging species. It was a new concept, one that challenged everything the Teshari believed about isolation and psychic purity. Finally, the chamber's hum quieted, and both Rourke and Ciri opened their eyes. They were exhausted, drained, but alive. And in the shared silence that followed, Ciri did something she had never done before. She curled up in Rourke's lap, not as a pet, but as a being choosing safety, trust, and equality. The council watched in silence, their expressions unreadable. Then slowly one of them stepped forward. "Perhaps humans have much to teach us," the elder said softly. The psychic tension in the room eased, replaced by curiosity. "And perhaps the Tashari can learn from this bond as well." Ciri blinked at the council, her tail flicking in surprise. Rourke's hand rested lightly on her back, a gentle reassurance. It was not about defiance, he said quietly. It was about care, about understanding each other. The council deliberated for hours, consulting among themselves through psychic resonance. When they finally spoke, the tone was different, less rigid, more contemplative. "We accept this connection," the elder announced. "It will be the first sanctioned bond between a Teshari and a human. Let it be an example of trust, not ownership." The crew of the Vigilant Dawn cheered quietly, respecting the formal ceremony but unable to contain their excitement. Siri twitched her ears, a small smile tugging at her lips. Rourke smiled as well, feeling the weight of the moment. Humanity had survived countless dangers, adapted to hostile environments, and now, once again, had earned the respect of a species that had seemed beyond understanding. Over the following weeks, humans and Teshari began to work together in ways that had never been attempted. Joint missions, shared research, and cultural exchanges became the norm. Siri and Rourke became symbols of this new era, a testament to what could be achieved when beings trusted each other despite differences. Siri no longer hesitated to participate in human activities, though she still corrected small mistakes with gentle precision. Rourke learned to interpret her subtle signals, the flick of a tail, the twitch of an ear, the tone of a whispered word. Their partnership was seamless, a dance of trust and understanding that inspired everyone around them. One evening, as the twin suns of the Teshari homeworld set over the floating cities, Rourke and Sari sat together atop a high terrace. The air was warm, the colors of the sky shimmering across crystal waters far below. Siri rested her head against him, her body relaxed in a way it had never been aboard the Vigilant Dawn. "You know," she said softly, "I used to think humans were reckless, too loud, and chaotic. But now, I see something else, courage, loyalty, and kindness, all shining brightly, even in darkness." Rourke laughed softly, brushing a hand through her fur. "It's not perfect," he admitted. "We make mistakes, but we try, and sometimes that's enough." Siri's silver eyes reflected the twin suns. "Enough is all I need," she said. As night fell and stars began to shimmer above the crystal oceans, humans and Teshari alike looked to the skies and realized that the galaxy had grown smaller. Not in distance, but in understanding. Friendships, trust, and courage could bridge even the deepest divides. And in the quiet bond between one human and one Teshari girl, a new era had begun, one filled with hope, respect, and limitless possibilities. For the first time, Siri knew she could face the universe without fear. And for the first time, Rourke understood the true power of connection. Not through dominance, not through control, but through trust, equality, and the courage to care. They had survived the storm, navigated the unknown, and together, they had shown that even in the vast emptiness of space, humanity's light could reach far beyond the stars. And as Siri curled up in Rourke's lap, choosing to stay, she whispered once more, not as a declaration, but as truth, "I am not your pet, but I am yours in trust and friendship." Rourke smiled, holding her gently, and I will never forget it. The galaxy stretched endlessly around them, but for the first time they both felt at home.